Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm excited about this week's topic. We are on week 2 of the Finding Your North Star series. If you missed week 1, I will put it in the show notes. In week 1, we talked about that we all have an inner compass or an inner lighthouse, and it's this part of us that guides us on this life's journey. It helps us make decisions that are in our highest and best interest. It helps us navigate those really challenging times in our lives. And we all have it, but we tend to lose track of it. And so we did a meditation around that. We had a nice talk around that. So I'd highly encourage you to go back and listen to that. This week, we are going to talk about the question, who am I? It's kind of a loaded question, right? When you ask yourself, who am I? How do you answer that question? Typically, people answer it by putting a descriptive noun afterwards, right? Like I'm a mother, or I'm a daughter, or I'm a nurse, or I'm a, whatever it is that are the defining characteristics of your life. We tend to put those words after the words I am. But those are not really who we are. And we're going to get more deeply into this. Those are just roles that we play here. So how do we get to the deeper I am? How do we get in touch with that deeper part of ourselves? And why is it important that we do? That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. But before we move on to that, I'm very excited. This is episode 93. So we are approaching 100 episodes, which I'm super excited about. It feels like a really big milestone. So I want to celebrate it. And I'm going to do that by having some ways of winning free coaching sessions with me. So I haven't decided on all the details. I will let you know. So be on the lookout, tune into the podcast. If you're on my email list, you of course will get all the information through that. So if you're not on my email list, I suggest you get on it. And I'll put some stuff out probably on Instagram as well. So look for those. If you win one of these prizes, you will get a free session with me. And then we can have some fun together. I'm really excited about it. I really believe in this topic that we're talking about today, and I believe in it for so many reasons, including the thing that I'm most passionate about, of course, which is finding your dharma. If we don't know who we really are at our essence, at our core, at our soul level, it's going to be really hard to create a life that is in alignment with who we are, right? The first step is finding out who we are. Then we can create the life that is in alignment with who we are and what we came here to do and what we were divinely designed to do. It all starts with this piece of finding your North Star. That's why I'm doing this series of figuring out who you are and having faith in the fact that you, the avatar, you, the person who walks around, and for me, like the person that calls myself Katie, Katie is just my avatar. Who I really am is much deeper than that. And if I want to create this life of joy and ease and expansion and peace and service and impact and purpose, then I need to get in touch with the real I am, right? That deeper part of myself. So we are going to talk about that in just a minute. In the meantime, if you've been thinking about working with me, I highly encourage you to go to the show notes and book a discovery call. I am trying to fill spots now for the spring. So starting in April of 2025, I have 5 spots for April of 2025. So if you've been thinking about it and you're kind of on the fence, but you've definitely been scoping out the website and tuning into the podcast, then I would really recommend you go over, book that discovery call. Let's have a discussion before those spots fill up. And I just love to meet you as well. Okay, now on to the show. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Mom on the Verge podcast, where I aim to help you improve your sense of joy, purpose, and meaning in this life. We will talk about a lot of different ways we can do this, but ultimately, we'll be working toward finding our way back home to ourselves and remembering that even in the most challenging times, peace is only a breath away. I am your host, Katie Farinas, a mom, nurse, and yogi on a mission to improve mental health, and build community in our world. Okay, I love this topic that we're talking about today. I find that with my clients, this is often where we begin with the question of who am I? And it's usually sparked because I work with primarily midlife women by a change in one of their roles in their lives. Because often we identify not with our higher selves, but with the roles that we play in this life. And we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so roles are necessary, not only necessary, they're incredibly useful and they allow us to do beautiful and wonderful things in this life that we are living, in this human experience that we're having. So the problem is not that we have these various roles in our lives. The problem is that we can become attached to them and start identifying believing that we are the role. So some roles, common roles people play in their lives is to be a mother or a parent, to be a daughter, a sister, a friend, a partner, to identify deeply with their career that they maybe have spent many years dedicating their lives to. And these are all beautiful roles to have in life. They're all wonderful, wonderful life experiences, and we can do amazing work, healing, beautiful service work in these roles. It's not the roles that are a problem. The problem is when we so identify with them and then, for whatever reason, the role goes away, right? Because nothing in this life is permanent. And I see many women experience this as their children start leaving the nest. They have dedicated so much of their lives to being a mom and being a really good mom to their children. And they have done a beautiful job at that and raised independent, healthy, productive members of society. And that's amazing. But then they do what they are supposed to do, which is go off and start living their own lives. And as the mom who has spent so much of her life for the past, probably 2 decades or more, playing this role and identifying with this role, the role is no longer occupying the same amount of space in her life that it did previously. You're always a mom, you'll always be a mom, but there comes a time when the importance of that role in your children's lives feels like it is diminished because they don't need you on a daily and hourly basis like they once did. And so a lot of people at that time will start asking the question, who am I? Without this role in my life, who am I and what do I want? I don't know. I can't answer that question because I've so fully identified I was this role. Without this role, what am I? This happens to people when they get laid off from a job or they retire, or if they have a health condition that suddenly takes them out of whatever roles that they've been playing. It's so, so very common, and it is so common for people in that position to seek my guidance and my help because they're feeling lost at that point. And they don't know which way to turn because they have spent so many years of their lives believing that they were the role. And so, what we're going to talk about today here is how stay stay in the role, because these roles, like I mentioned, are great and they're useful and they're necessary, while not attaching and identifying to the role. We're going to talk about how we can learn to understand, um, to really know in our bones, more than understand, but to truly, truly feel it in the depths of our soul, who we are outside of those roles. Because who you are is a soul. And that soul came here to have an earthly experience. And when it's time for this earthly experience to end, the soul doesn't die, it lives on and it goes back to where it came from. And depending on what you believe, maybe it'll come back and have another earthly experience, or maybe it won't. But it's the part of us that never dies. When you ask the question, who am I? I am the part that never dies. You are the part that never dies. I'm not this body. I am not the roles that I play. I am not the good things I do. I'm not the bad things I do. I am not the thinker of my thoughts. I am so much bigger and deeper, wider, and more expansive than any of those things. I am far greater than any role that I play on this earthly plane, and so are you. So, how do we get in touch with that essence, that higher self, that soul that we're talking about? How do we, in the midst of playing all these roles and the busy lives that we lead, still remember that we are bigger than that? How do we keep coming back to the fact that yes, I do this thing in this life, but it's not actually who I am? And the answer is to keep returning to quiet and stillness, because that's where the real you lives. If you listened to, I'm sorry, if you read my newsletter from last week about last week's episode of Finding Your Inner Compass, which I'll link all of this at the bottom of the show. I was saying that, if you went to a concert, if you went to, a really big concert venue, tens of thousands of people singing along to the music, it's just so loud, right? Probably everybody listening has been to a concert, and it's insanely loud. You have to scream to talk to the person next to you. Your soul is like the person in the cheap seats in the back whispering. And that's how your soul talks to you. Okay. So if think about yourself, place yourself in a large venue, tens of thousands of people screaming, singing along, music playing. Do you hear that person up in the cheap seats whispering? No, you do not. So in order to get in touch with that, we need to get quiet and we need to get still and we need to allow our higher selves, our true selves, the true I am, to speak to us. And we can do that in a lot of different ways, but all of the ways require us to get really quiet and really still and really receptive, open and receptive to wanting to hear what it has to say, to inviting the soul to speak and being willing to listen and trust in its guidance. So I want to do just a few little questions to try to help you understand this concept, because it's not an easy one. It's a little bit of a tough concept in my opinion. So I'm gonna ask you a few questions. I'm gonna give you just a moment of silence to kind of think about it and then come back. Okay, so to help you start understanding this. So as you're here, you're listening to this podcast, you're listening to my voice. I want you to ask yourself, who is listening? Who is hearing my voice? Do you sense a presence there? Who is behind all the activities you perform in your life? Do you sense a presence there? Because the soul is present while you play every single role and have every single experience in life. It is the awareness that sits behind the role and sits behind the thought, the action, the experience. It watches and it listens, and then it quietly guides you. And the soul is always loving because we are love, right? That's just the truth. We are love wrapped in a human suit, with a lot of noise around us. So we sometimes forget, we often forget that we actually are love. But our essence, our higher self, our soul is always loving, it's always compassionate, and it's always acting in your highest and best. It is the life force inside of you. Now, take a moment and pay attention to your thoughts. Just just take a moment to watch them kind of come and go. Now ask yourself, who is thinking these thoughts? Right? Who is thinking these thoughts? Are you the thinker of your thoughts? Are you the awareness behind the thoughts? Now pay attention to your breathing. Feel your chest rising and falling. Are you your breath? Or are you the observer of your breath, the awareness behind your breath? Right? So, another way I like to try to help people conceptualize this is imagine that your life was a container. So, everything that happened to you in your life is in the container. Every thought you had, every experience, every role you played, every action you took, all of that is inside the container. But the real you is the container. Okay. The container is what holds all of that. It holds it, it watches it, and it carries it. That's the real you. And when we can start to truly not just know that on a kind of philosophical level, but really deeply know it in our bones, and we can learn to start to connect with that higher self, with who we truly are, with the watcher, with the awareness, then we get to truly understand that we are love, that we are compassion, that we are gratitude, that we are all, that we are all the beautiful parts of life. And when we start to see that in ourselves and deeply know it in ourselves, we can also see it and know it in other people. And it's how we learn to be in service to the world, to heal the world in our own way, right? This comes back to our soul's purpose. We really can't know our dharma, know our soul's purpose, know what we were sent to do here, how we were meant to make this world a better place and to serve and to create a life that feels amazing for us, right? Feels in flow and purposeful and joyful. We can't know any of that until we know who we truly are at our essence. It all stems from there. And that is one of the first parts of the work that I do with my clients, is helping them to learn to get in touch with who they truly are at their essence. to learn to be able to get in contact with that part, with that truth at any moment, and to listen to the guidance that comes from our higher selves. So let's take a moment to sit in that quiet and stillness, to tell our higher selves that we're ready to listen, we are open and receptive, and see what our soul has to say to us. There is no pressure here, right? We're going to ask the soul some questions during this meditation, and you may get some answers right during this meditation, and you might get the answers in the form of words, sensations, knowings, just kind of downloads, all of a sudden just knowing something. Or you may get nothing, okay? And that's okay too, because sometimes it takes time, right? We cannot rush this process. And sometimes it takes getting in touch with ourselves on a regular basis, multiple times, trusting in the process, seeing the small clues that get sent our way. This is not a magic wand, but it is the path. It is the path towards home, because that's really where we're going, right? We're going home to ourselves, to our true selves. And so that begins by connecting with our true selves. And if we haven't done that in a while, then we are learning to repair that connection. That connection has weakened over time, and we're learning to strengthen it. And so you may get some information here during this meditation, or it may come later at some random time when you weren't expecting it. Or it may take multiple sessions of getting in touch with your higher self before you start getting the information, hearing what it wants to tell you. You just have to continue to practice and to have faith in the process. Okay, so why don't we all take a comfortable seat, and as long as you, of course, I always say this, are not driving or doing something else that it would be dangerous for you to meditate and close your eyes and go internally aware. Find yourself a nice quiet spot to sit, or you can lay down, either one. If you're sitting, make sure your back is straight and your shoulders are down and relaxed. Your chin is tucked just ever so slightly towards your chest, and the crown of your head is pointing towards the sky. And we're going to just take a few deep breaths in and out of the nose. Good. Feeling the rise and fall of your chest as you take these breaths. Feeling your body as it settles in. Maybe feeling the weight of your body on the surface that you're sitting or lying on. Consciously relaxing the muscles around your eyes and your mouth. Maybe allowing the jaw to separate just a little bit. The tongue touching the roof of your mouth. Relaxing those shoulders, and even relaxing the palms of the hands and your fingers. And continuing to effortlessly observe the breath, and lingering in the pauses. So when we inhale, there's a natural pause that happens at the top of the inhale. When we exhale, there's a natural pause that happens at the bottom of the exhale. Just being aware of those pauses, being aware that they exist, being aware of what they feel like in your body. Open receptivity. In Sanskrit, the vibration aham means I am. You're going to sit silently, repeating the words aham, aham. This Sanskrit vibration energetically reminds us that we are far greater than the roles we play, the thoughts we think, and the experiences we have. We are not the wave in the ocean. We are the ocean. Begin silently and effortlessly repeating aham, aham, aham. And as you settle deeper, have the faint awareness of connecting with your true self. Remembering that thoughts will come and go, sensations will come and go, but you are not your thoughts, and you are not your sensations. You are the observer, the silent witness, the compassionate container for every part of your life. Aham, aham, aham. Please continue effortlessly repeating the sound. There's no need to force or concentrate. Just allow the mantra to come in its own time, in its own way, and trust in the intelligence that the vibration carries. I will call you back when it's time. begin to release the mantra, just coming back to the sensation of your breath, and the movement of your chest and belly, coming back to the sounds in the room, and to any sensations you may feel in your body. Recognizing that in the last few minutes, you came in contact with your true self, the real I am, your essence, your soul, the container of awareness that holds your entire life. You have just found yourself. Remembering that you can always come back to this place, that your true self always lives in the stillness and the silence, and that it's always loving, always compassionate, always acting in your highest and best. Have a beautiful rest of your week, my friends. I continue to teach on Monday nights a candlelit slow flow yoga class, so please come if you're anywhere in the area. As I mentioned, I'm filling spots for my spring coaching schedule, so if you're thinking about that, I have 5 slots that are open. Book a call now before they fill up. And we can do a lot of what we did here today together. Getting in touch with who you really are, what you really want, why you really came here. So you can have a life filled with meaning and impact and peace, purpose, and joy. I love you all so much. I'll talk to you next week.